Heidi Kuehnle, she's founder and CTO of Kuehnle AgroSystems. Previously, Heidi was a professor of plant biotechnology at UH, and I remember years ago her coming to my shrimp farm in Kona and searching for the magic bugs that she's so interested in. She earned her PhD in plant breeding from Cornell and a BA from Middlebury. And today, Heidi is going to tell us about novel products from algae. Heidi, thank you. Let's advance. That's a pointer. Yeah.
Great. Good morning, everyone. I'm Heidi Kuehnle. Thank you for the introduction. It's great to see familiar faces in the audience. So yes, I'm Heidi Kuehnle, CTO, or Chief Technology Officer of Kuehnle AgroSystems, co-founder with Gordon Wallace, who's here. We are a microalgae products development company located right up the street near University of Hawaii. We call our company KAS for short. So we at KAS truly believe that novel algae products are key to our future diets. And I want to tell you about what we're doing on that aspect today. So, to advance it. Okay, advancing is not working. Can we advance? There we go. So in the talk today, I'll be introducing a couple of our algae. We have our protein-rich strain and our antioxidant-rich strain. And these we developed specifically to meet the growing demand for sustainable, nutritious ingredients. As you know, our global food supply today is already challenged by water and land scarcity and climate threats. And experts agree that just producing more food, conventional food, using conventional methods is not feasible or sustainable going forward. We wanted to do something about that. And consumers agree as well. When they were surveyed in the top 10 food trends that they reflected in the survey from last year, consumers identified at number 3 the tech-to-table factor, which is supporting new farming systems for sustainable nutrition. And at KAS, we also agree. We think that new farming systems are essential to maximize the harvest from our high protein and our high antioxidant strains. And this is really just to produce those volumes that we'll need to get it into our food systems and at price points that make it appealing to do so. It's easy to talk about algae, but when you look at commercialization of algae, it's often constrained by this lack of scalable, sustainable production, and that's what our company is working on. So a little bit about KAS. As microalgae experts, we've been active in Hawaii supporting algae products since 2008. We came in with the biofuels heyday, and when people realized it's too expensive, they said, well, what can you have your algae make that's more valuable? And so we, along with the industry, provided strains that they could shift to make other products. We've now developed a patented fermentation process and these unique algae strains to fill the sustainability gaps for food and for feed. Our technology enables faster, cheaper, and more sustainable ingredients with very little water, land, and energy compared to the conventional sources. The algae species that we work with already have GRAS, or generally regarded as safe status, so in a way they're FDA approved, so these are safe to eat. You can see our fermenter here, so part of our algae collection, our research staff, and there we're at the Manoa Innovation Center, which is run by the University of Hawaii. I'd like to give a shout out to our blue chip investors. Aquaspark is here at this conference, and then we have Kavala Ventures and Hatch. Just a slide on the importance of breeding. It's great to see in this conference, Jim and Jason, that you folks had a lot of people who bring up the topic of breeding. I used to be a plant breeder at the University of Hawaii for 20 years, developing important varieties. Senator Inoue is nodding. Thank you. And this was very important, to work with the farmers and find out what they needed to make their farming system productive and profitable. So as a plant breeder, when I left these are anthuriums and tropical orchids, dendrobium orchids, that's the crops that I was working on. And we developed like 24 varieties during my tenure there, working with the farmers to make sure they had production and export material. But for us, since we started the company and it was my vision, I said, well, we got to be breeding the best tailor-made algae strains. And we don't do genetic engineering. Why? Is because nature has so much diversity to offer us. So let's let nature reveal what she has or they have, and we can then use that to the best of our ability. Microalgae are single-cell plants, and because they're single-cell organisms, they're quick to breed, and they adapt to new conditions. So we learned how to breed algae efficiently. It still took us several years to get the traits we wanted. But they will thrive in water if you feed them fertilizer. And so if you feed them enough in the right environments, they will express their genetics that allow them to make amazing products that can benefit us. Some of these algae strains can produce nutritious components like protein, oils, vitamins, antioxidant, and minerals. So when you eat algae, you'll eat lots of healthy things. Our focus has been on protein. We learned yesterday that microalgae products are already in foods that we eat. A lot of times they'll still be in the dietary supplement aisle, like this is at Whole Foods. You'll see algae products you can buy. These products mainly originate from photosynthetic algae, so they require light to produce photosynthesis, which produces their food so they can grow. It's an inefficient process when you're depending on light. So some algae strains can grow in the dark if you feed them sugars. So they don't have to fix carbon in photosynthesis, you just feed them that carbon and they can flourish in a fermentation tank. We were introduced to that fermentation approach during our biofuels days, and so we were big fans of it. But the material that's in the food market today, it all has a light finish to make the final nutrients they want or the color they want for the consumers, so there's always a light component. And we didn't want that anymore. So the problem we were attacking, both from a process and a strain point of view, was let's get the algae protein content way high. I'm talking about let's make an algae into a soybean concentrate, because we're using that already. Let's make algae look just like the soybean concentrate without all the downstream processing. The other problem in the strains is that nobody could produce astaxanthin in the dark. I mean, that's unheard of. But that didn't deter us. So we did spend years, maybe about 6 years, developing our best-in-breed algae strains for these two traits, and also needed to innovate the fermentation process around that because our algae are photosynthetic. So our breakthrough technology, I've mentioned that it's patented. It's patented so that we have claims that are around us to allow this high supply volumes, and that's coming in at competitive costs. So our proprietary algae grow in vertical tanks like you see here. They're in complete darkness. If you've gone to any microbreweries, you've seen stainless steel tanks filled with organisms, and for a beer brewery, it's going to be yeast, and in our case, it'll be algae growing in the dark. And our patent covers that class of algae that already is being FDA approved. That's called the Chlamydomonas nodalis, for those of you who are interested in the details. We believe we are growing algae our way with our strains can have a strong positive environmental impact. The algae can grow to very high concentrations very fast. By fast, I mean we can harvest in 3 days. And I'll give you some statistics that we've calculated for feeding us here in the islands based on that growth rate. And the production is massively scalable because we're in standard fermentation equipment. We believe our fermentation process is revolutionary. First of all, that it is extremely fast. When you look at the numbers, we can get 1 ton of product starting from flask in just 2 weeks. So remember, it's single cell, so it's like a microbe, but it's a single cell plant. We can get it to grow very, very fast. And it's 100% edible product. We don't do extraction or downstream processing. You eat the entire algae because our entire algae is edible. There's no, you don't have to mill it or anything to get the nutrients out into our digestive system. And there's no solid waste. I was just next door listening to the new NSF grant panel, and we have great speakers over there, and they're trying to valorize waste products from their plant crops or tree crops, which is great. It's good to find use of byproducts. You don't want waste. But our algae doesn't create any solid waste because we're eating the whole thing. And it's planet-friendly nutrition. So you may not know this, but today's production of protein uses up land and water levels that threatens humanity. I mean, we just can't keep going with what we're doing, and we need to fix that. So with our algae production system and our strain, 1 ton of our algae protein uses 99% less water when you compare it to a soybean field for protein or cattle, beef for protein, and the numbers are there. So very fast, planet-friendly, and energy-friendly as well. We've done a comparative study of farming strains, and this is our antioxidant strain. We had the energy use for a company that uses these, they're called photobioreactors or tubes that the algae circulates in, and they have a lot of light shining on them. You compare their energy use to our algae strain growing in complete darkness, and here you can see there's 2 human beings in each one of these pictures. You can see the scale of these production facilities. I mean, they're large production facilities. But when you compare the energy inputs, we're over a magnitude less energy required to make the same product, just by going into fermentation with highly productive algae strains. Other benefits from our protein product is helping slash emissions. When we can start incorporating this source of protein into our diets in place of beef, for example, we could produce 90% fewer greenhouse gas emissions. Diversifying ag, this is a new form of farming. It's vertical farming for a new crop, microalgae. I would call that diversified ag. And it's well-paying jobs. These are technical jobs. We have a computer scientist on board, because our material's all software run, our process is all software run to have our precise nutrition going into our algae runs. So these are well-paying jobs that we can have here in Hawaii. By moving into this form of food production, we can eliminate antibiotic use, we can eliminate pesticide and herbicide sprays, we don't have runoff pollution, we don't have solid waste, we don't have habitat destruction from conventional farming. All important things on the checklist for sustainability. And Asia Pacific is the fastest growing region for plant-based protein. It's estimated to be over $1 billion algae protein market in just a few years. I mean, these are always optimistic, but why not? I mean, we want to be part of that market in a few years from now. It is the species of algae with our protein. It's called Chlamydomonas. It's already approved for use in several Asian countries as well as the USA. It can deliver high-quality vegan nutrition. It's like a soybean concentrate protein. That was our goal, and that's what we can say it is like that, and I'll show you some data in the next slide. But it's a whole food, remember, and it's unprocessed. The nutritional profile, the amino acid profile of our algae exceeds the World Health Organization standards for human nutrition. And it has a higher protein quality and higher digestibility than chlorella and spirulina algae. Those are the ones that you can find in the market now, mainly as dietary supplements. But we have a better quality and more digestible, more accessible nutrients when you eat our algae. Whoops, how do I go back? Okay, so some benefits of our fermentation algae for nutrition and performance. Our Chlamydomonas protein actually is more like an animal-based protein than plant proteins like soy or pea when you look at the amino acid profile. That's what this chart is. You can see in the yellow, you can see lysine and methionine. We have higher lysine and methionine than the average plant average. You can see our numbers very similar, 7% lysine, 2% methionine. So we're actually delivering more than a soybean concentrate could in terms of key essential amino acids for the human diet. I mentioned our food is a whole food, unprocessed. I mean, the consumers like it. There's a whole store chain called Whole Foods. But it's important for practical reasons as well. There's no need for this capital-intensive protein isolate processing facilities like they need for pea protein. You may not realize it, but that's a major roadblock right now in getting enough pea protein into our diets. It's the downstream processing equipment. We don't need that downstream processing. We dry it and eat it. And then very important is, how does it function if we're going to have it as a food ingredient? If we're going to mix it into our dumpling filling, for example, can we do that? And yes, we can say that we have desirable technofunctional properties as a whole cell. So the tests that we've done have shown it has great water holding capacity, has excellent emulsion capacity, and it has low foaming ability, which are all good things to have for a food ingredient. So, great algae, great process. Can our algae offer regional protein solutions? 5 minutes? Okay. So we say yes, we have a good carrying capacity on this island, for example, because you only need a 2-acre industrial zone to make 13% of the protein needs of the island, which is 6.6 million pounds of protein. Okay, 2 acres. So can we use that to enhance our regional protein sources? The answer is yes in terms of nutrition. We have much higher protein content for some of the local foods we're eating, taro, breadfruit, beans, even higher, 4 times higher protein content than mahi-mahi. But the big question here is it culturally acceptable? And we really want to work with the leaders in the community to understand how our product can go make it into the local diets and become acceptable. Here's some of the foods we've made. I know we're getting to lunchtime, so maybe you'll be inspired by these. We've made, for example, incorporated into batters, like pancake batters, to double the protein content. Stuff tastes great. We've put it into, we made our own best foods spread. You know, we all love our best foods here. Can we double the protein content of a mayonnaise? The answer is yes. We've made vegan meatballs, we've made dumpling fillings. We'd like to get it into the locally made tortillas to up the protein content. Put it into our normal diet, but make it more nutritious. That's our early goal, but maybe other people have better visions on how we can integrate this into feeding us for the future. I just wanted to say, our algae can be stored at room temperature for a few years because we dry it, and then we can vacuum pack it. So you can have this as part of your food strategy. It's not a fresh, you kind of have it as a fresh food, but we're treating it not as a fresh food, but as a nutritional material we can produce here as needed and store it. Real quick is our other product. It's algal astaxanthin. This is an exceptionally powerful antioxidant with clinical trials that prove its health benefits, but the stuff is wicked hard to grow and expensive, so we wanted to change that. I'm going to skip the meeting specs because it meets specs. Just wanted to say that it's also important feed material. It goes into fish feeds that are critically important. For example, red fish, like here's some salmon. The farmed fish is gray unless you add astaxanthin into the feed pellets. And so that makes it looking just like a wild-caught fish. So to support aquaculture efforts, astaxanthin happens to be a very important ingredient for the red fish and shrimp industry. If you're eating salmon, you're eating synthetic astaxanthin today, and our goal is to replace synthetic petrochemical product with a sustainable natural whole algae. We've already proven our algal astaxanthin in fish feed, shrimp feed. This was tests done by third parties, industry leaders with ESG mandates. So we're excited about that data, and it is approved already for use in feeds in our target regions. I think I've mentioned that fermentation solves a lot of challenges if you grow algae by photosynthesis. So I'm going to skip this as well and just tell you a little bit about our strain, and then I think I have 2 slides, Jim. So what we've done with, some of you may be familiar with the Haematococcus, that algae that produces the astaxanthin. We used nature, said nature, why can we please make astaxanthin without that hard macadamia nut shell that's on the outside of these algae when they turn red? That prevents it from being taken up by the fish or by us without milling it. We don't want to mill anything anymore. So we selected, using our breeding program, their natural biology to make astaxanthin without a shell. No shell. They still swim around. So that was a major breakthrough. In fact, we were able to patent that as a novel trait for Haematococcus algae. And this superior strain not only is easy to digest, we can reduce our production costs compared to today to what is being the production costs from the people we've talked to all around the world who grow astaxanthin. That cost is reduced from photosynthetic algae production by ours by 90%. Our production time is a matter of days, so we've reduced production time by 80%. Resource footprint, tiny, it's vertical farming, and hopefully on our path to sustainability and consistent harvests. Just our current status, this is my last slide, is we've just finished our pilot plant testing. We're with 2 different parties that already have pre-built facilities. This is part of our team visiting one of those facilities. We'll be moving to industrial tests next month, October. We are raising $2.5 million to keep up that momentum. So if you're interested in what we're doing, please let's talk after this. So thank you very much.